Well, I started my career in real estate as an agent, and then I got into rental properties, and then I helped other people fix and flip properties, and then I started fix and flipping properties. But as soon as I was able to, I became a hard money lender because, in my opinion, that's the single best way to invest your money. It's backed by an asset that's a tangible asset. It's more passive than other things. You can get decent returns and frankly, pretty good returns. So today I'm going to show you how to start funding deals. I'm hoping that you'll think that it's easier than you think. How to become a hard money lender. It's what we're going to be talking about today, and we're going to cover a lot of different things here, okay? We're going to be covering what is hard money. Most people don't understand that. Why you would want to be a hard money lender. We're going to talk about how to get started in hard money lending, and we are going to talk about so much more, okay? So first off, what is a hard money lender? What is a hard money lender, okay? Hard money lenders are what are called asset-based lenders. It's not hard to get, it's actually pretty easy to get, but they're lending on the hard asset, okay? It's really important that you understand this distinction. Traditional lenders are lending 97% of the property's value. They are credit qualifying people. They're looking at debt to income. They're looking at their payment history. They want to make sure that the reliability of this person is going to be able to repay this debt. That's what they're doing. They're also getting insurance so that if they don't pay the debt, they're going to get paid back from the government or through Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac type stuff, pseudo-government. So that's what they're doing. Now, a hard money lender, on the other hand, is going to do 70% of the as-is or after-repaired value. So they're saying, yeah, I'm not going to lend 97%. I'll lend 70% of what that property is going to be worth, either what it's worth now or what you're going to turn it into, as long as I have the money to cover all those rehab, the rehab costs, okay? So that's the difference. So traditional lenders, they have a buyer that pays for mortgage insurance. So in addition to their payment, they are also paying for mortgage insurance, okay? They're paying mortgage insurance on top of the payment. So if the mortgage company takes a loss, the mortgage insurance is going to pay them back. So it's very hard for them to lose a significant amount of money because they have coverage from the mortgage insurance company or from the government if it's an FHA type loan. The mortgage insurance will pay them back, so they're not going to lose money. They may lose a little bit, but they're not going to lose a lot because they've got insurance to take care of that. This is the whole reason why traditional loans are at such low rates. You could drive down the street and rates are 5%, 4%, whatever the case is, and hard money loans are going to be 12 to 20%, depending upon some factors, right? This is why there's a difference. Because a hard money lender doesn't have this mortgage insurance, and it's not even offered, nor could they get it, this type of mortgage insurance, and you're also not paying for that. So that's the big difference on what hard money lenders are doing. Hard money lenders are lending on the hard asset. They don't have this insurance that will cover them if something happens, so the rates are going to be higher, and they aren't going to credit qualify you. Now, they may want to make sure you're not in a bankruptcy, that you're not, wanted by the FBI, you're not in the middle of foreclosure, those types of things. But they're not going to say, how much money do you make? What's your debt to income ratio? Is this going to go over? They're going to say, no, we lend based upon the property as long as there's not something major going on with you. And that is why these rates can be so much higher for hard money lenders. Well, let's talk about some benefits here. What's a benefit of traditional loans? Well, traditional loans, you're going to get a lower interest rate. There's no question. Hard money versus traditional loans going down to the bank, you will get a better interest rate when you're dealing with a traditional loan. And this can be great for rental properties, or it can also be great for BRRRR type deals. When you buy a property with hard money, you get the money for the rehab and the purchase. Then you refinance that, so you have little to no money into it, but you refinance that with a traditional lender, so you end up getting a low interest rate. Now, this only works if you have good credit, but it is something you should really think of. You've got to credit qualify, you've got to have good debt to income, you've got to have the last 2 years consistent income. Keep in mind though, they will count, most lenders will count your new rental income that you've been receiving as income, which will help you qualify for the loan if you do the BRRRR deal, and that starts with getting a hard money loan to begin with, okay? But this is long-term. Hard money loans is short-term. It's a short-term type money. Let's talk about some downsides of traditional loans. You've got to have good credit. You've got a long time to close on the property. You can't buy a home that's in need of repairs. Lots of conditions and paperwork to get the loan. There's lots of, you got to do this, you got to do that. Okay, now let's switch over to some of the benefits of hard money loans. Hard money loans can close quick. They can get money for rehab and purchases. They have few requirements to get the loan. They're not going to have tons of requirements. Financing for deals that cannot be done elsewhere. Like if a property's in bad condition and you go down to your local bank, they're going to say, we're not going to finance that. We need to make sure it's in good condition. Because why not? Because the likelihood that you're going to repay goes down significantly if you've got to spend all your money fixing up a property, then moving into one that's move-in ready. As a matter of fact, FHA loans, they require the appraiser to go through and make sure that the property's in good enough shape where the borrower isn't going to have to go and put a whole bunch more money into the property. And if it's not, they will not give the loan on that property. So that's something to keep in consideration here. Now, let's talk about some downsides to hard money. It's a short-term loan. It is not a long-term loan. You're not going to get a 30-year loan with a hard money lender. You're going to get a 6-month loan, a 5-month loan, a 8-month loan. You're going to get a short-term loan with a lender. The other thing is it's more expensive. It will cost you more money, and the reason it costs you more money is the hard money lenders don't have backing from the federal government. Two things. The hard money lenders don't borrow from the government at some ridiculous rate. And then they also don't have the insurance in case something goes wrong. So as a mortgage company, they've got double coverage, right? They're borrowing at next to nothing, 0.5%, 1%, whatever the case is. And they have insurance if something goes wrong with you not paying the loan, and they're making the spread in the middle. So that's why it's a lot less expensive when you're dealing with a traditional loan. Now, let's talk about different types of hard money loans. There's residential hard money loans. So this would be on houses, condos, those types of things. There's commercial hard money loans. There's business receivables. Receivables are when a business is getting, they build out and they're supposed to be getting some money in. Services are already there. There's hard money loans that actually do receivables. There's hard money loans that will lend on business assets. The assets are actually in the business, what they actually have, tangible things. So we're going to focus on residential. That is my wheelhouse and what I know and what I do. So we're going to focus on that, meaning single family to fourplexes is where we're going to focus on this. Now, let's talk for a minute about gap financing. Gap financing could be a great way for you to get started with not a lot of money in the hard money lending game. Now, it's a higher risk and it could be a higher return. So this gets into loan positioning. Most people don't understand how loans work, okay? If you give a loan on a house in first position for $100,000, then someone gives a loan in second position for $25,000. The first loan doesn't get paid. They can foreclose and they can wipe out the second position. The second position will no longer have a lien on the property. It will actually be owned by the first position, okay? So the second position may be able to go after the borrower and try and get some money out of them, but they're not going to be able to have the property as their collateral because they got wiped out. They do not have the security. The first position now owns that property. So the second position would have to pay off the loan first with interest and fees or late payments, or the second could just start making the payments and attorney fees to protect their position. They could do that or say it's not worth it. Second position is a higher risk and a higher reward. Gap financing is the difference between what somebody can get from a hard money lender and what they may need to make the deal work. So for example, let's say the hard money lender will lend $70,000, but they need $85,000 and they don't have the money, but there's a $40,000 potential profit. So a gap financer would come in and say, hey, I've got $15,000 I'll put down. I'll put that down and I will take on some of that risk. Okay, that's where we get into what's called participation loans. Participation loans can be done in a couple of different ways. Now, this is called debt. Participation is really when we talk about equity here. So a debt loan means that this is where the person that gives you money, you are responsible to pay no matter what, okay? You can get foreclosed, and they can go after you for the payment, like you were saying, I am going to pay you guys back. However, the individual that you're lending to could file bankruptcy and then you would be out. Otherwise, you can go after them. Being owed money and collecting money are two different things. You've got to realize that. A lot of people that owe money, but you'll never see it from them. Now, that's the debt position. You know, so with the debt position, you're going to get an interest rate. You're going to get I'm going to give you $15,000 and I want, 15%, right? So now let's talk about equity. So rather than giving you a loan, you can actually come in and be part of the deal. And I like this a lot better. So you come in and say, hey, I'll put up $20,000, but I want 40% of the profits and I want to own 40% of the property. So the first lender gets paid in full and then agent costs and fees. Then you get your principal back, and what's left, you would get 40% and they would get 60%. That can work out extremely well. This is this idea of gap financing. But keep in mind, this is all negotiable. There's whatever the buyer and the gap financer is willing to do, you can work things out. And you can make that happen between the two of you. But there's two different skill sets here. There's the debt, where you owe me no matter what, where the gap financer is going to make less, but the borrower is on the hook for more. With an equity type position, if they don't make enough money to pay your $20,000, you'll get your money back if there's enough money to pay it. So if there's not enough money, if there's only money to pay the first lender and the agent costs, you may walk away with nothing, and you can't go after the borrower for that, right? Because it was a participation loan. You took on the risk being associated with that, but you were potentially going to get a higher reward. Now, one of the good things about this is the person that you're working with or you're lending to is not going to be getting any money from this, right? So if the first lender gets paid back and the agents get paid and maybe you get 10,000 of your 20,000, the guy that was running this deal doesn't get anything, right? They haven't gotten any money from this. So that's something that you've got to take into consideration. So they're also putting some of their skin into the game through sweat equity, through time, through management. Something to think about. Next thing we can talk about is partnerships. This can be done through a formal partnership. They bring a deal, you bring the money type of an idea. Many people can get a line of credit off their home. So in your home, you can get a second line of credit, and then you can use that line of credit for lending. Now you can lend in first position, or you could do gap financing in second position, taking on some more risk, or you do it as equity where you're actually owning part of the property. So those are the types of things that you can do with that by getting the line of credit. Now the cool thing about a line of credit is when you need the money, you then pay interest. When you don't need the money, you pay it back, but you have access to that money at any time where you can go pull some money out and use it for lending purposes. This is an untapped resource that a lot of people have that they can use. And I look at it as if I take a loan on my house, but then I end up having a first position on another property, I'm really equity swapping, right? Because I basically own this one free and clear if the guy screws up, but I took the equity from here and put it there. So I don't look at it as being irresponsible. Excuse me. I have a local credit union that will do loans on non-owner occupied properties. So these are rental properties of mine. Now they want to be in first position, so you've got to pay off the existing loan that's there, or paid off as part of that, getting that line. But they basically will say, if we're in first position, we will give you a line of credit on non-owner occupied properties, which works out really well. So then I can actually get a loan. I can keep collecting the rents. I can have access to the line of credit. And when I need it, I can go loan that money at a higher interest rate. And I'm paying the bank their 6% or 7%, whatever it ends up being. It's going to be higher than what you can normally get on a traditional loan. Then I can borrow against that property to do a hard money loan, and then I can pay it back. And I only pay interest for the time I have it out. If you have higher amounts of money, this could be a retirement account. This could be cash. Let's talk about a retirement account. You can take a retirement account and you can move it from your retirement account to a self-directed retirement. So most retirement accounts only let you do stocks or bonds, that type of stuff. Now, if you switch that over to a self-directed, now you could buy fine art, gold, silver, real estate, those types of things. Real estate being the most responsible one from my opinion. So you can do that. This means that you can invest in loans and you can invest in real estate itself. Now, if you actually just have extra cash, you're typically gonna need a net worth of at least $1 million. That doesn't mean you need $1 million to invest. I would say a quarter, $250,000 is probably a minimum that you'd wanna get started with. But you wanna make sure you're an accredited investor and have at least $1 million. This is called an accredited investor. Then you can do several loans at once and spread your risk out on those deals. So why would you want to do hard money lending? Well, you can make double-digit returns. There's good security on real estate. It's something that's tangible, it's something that's needed, it's something that's never gonna go away. There's some of the big things. Now, the other option you have is raising money. The other way to get involved is raising money from others. So you're starting a fund or a private placement memorandum. There are some, this is very advanced, and I'm not going to cover all the details, and you're going to have to hire an attorney. It's also private placement memorandum is also called a PPM. And there are some security laws that you're going to have to be aware of. So you're going to need to hire a securities attorney and make sure. But this is something that you potentially could do, where you actually go in and you raise money from different people, and then you do what's called fractionalizing the loans. So everybody owns a little bit of every loan that actually goes and happens. This loan may be for $100,000, but each investor only has $5,000 in it. So it keeps your risk spread out. And there's some pros and there's some cons to actually doing that, both from the investor side and from your side if you're raising that. So making sure it's a first position, not a second position. You want to be undivided interest, and this has to be done correctly, or you could find yourself in a second position thinking you're in a first position. Again, this is a more advanced strategy, not something that I recommend for someone just getting started. Now,